Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Journey to Greatness. Day 31 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT. Good morning, Sister Fatima. Good morning. All right. All right. So we're going to get into our meditation routine. I will see you on the other side. Oh, oh. All right, everybody, welcome back. So we just finished our meditation routine, and now we're getting into our reading routine. Daoud, good morning, my brother. Karen, Sarah, AJ, good morning. Happy Saturday. I will see you all on the other side. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So we just finished our journaling routine, our meditation routine. I gotta cut my hair. Look at this little fluff. um, Meditation routine, journaling routine, and now we're getting into our reading routine, but not this book. This book. So Marianne Williamson, The Law of Divine Compensation on Work, Money, and Miracles is the book that we're currently reading. And up to this point, it has been nothing but phenomenal. So I will see you all on the other side. I too will post this in our Journey to Greatness page so everybody can know exactly which book it is later today. So This book is crazy, man. Powerful. All right, here we go. So we are still in the first chapter here. And this book is a gentle reminder pretty much of how we've been living our lives pretty much most of our adult lives since 18. And as I begin here, the universe is set up to work on your behalf. Before we actually even continue reading this, as I'm reading this and I'm going through this work, I want you to keep in mind this is how loved you are. Okay, this is how loved you are. This is how loved we are as people from God. The universe is set up to work on your behalf. Mind you, when you look up into the sky and you see that sky and you see how big and vast it is and how deep it is, imagine that. Infinite space. That's how big the universe is, okay? And it's set up to work up on our behalf. The world is not giant, uncaring, random expression of biological processes, but rather a living, breathing reflection of love for all living things. The universe itself is miraculous. You do not have to believe this, of course. It may not feel that way to you at all, but spiritual laws aren't called the good news for nothing. Spiritual truth is always at work beyond what the eye can see. It describes an invisible other world that exists in the realm beyond our mortal circumstances. What that means is our belief in the universe, and I would actually narrow this down to our imaginations. Our imaginations is an invisible world only visible to us. And then there's an infinite space of possibility, of opportunity. And the moment that we allow for fear or ego, the moment that we allow for our minds to shut down and say there is no way for this to happen, or there's no way for a miracle to happen, is the moment that you block a miracle. And every single miracle that's due upon you that you have thought about anytime in your past, in your future, doesn't matter. Anytime you've thought about a miracle. But the moment that you say there is no way, the moment that you say this is how it is, that's the moment that you start blocking every miracle that can come to you from an infinite pool of miracles, right? This is a simple shift in how we think. Can make all the difference in what happens next. How we think releases an infinite number. Well, there you go. I didn't even know that. Yeah. Anyway, how we think releases an infinite number of possibilities that could not have occurred had we not believed that they were possible. Such is the power of our thoughts to attract as well as deflect miraculous breakthroughs. Pardon me. Free will means you can think whatever you want to think. You cannot, however, make untrue what is true, and what is true untrue. Enlightenment is the answer to every problem. In any situation where you seem to be at the effect of forces over which you have no control, remember that God dwells within your mind, and there are no forces in which he has no control. Therefore, through his power within you, there are no mortal conditions over which you are powerless. Anything you experience on a physical plane in a physical world can be taken over by your imagination and the inner God that's in you. You are able to think your way out of situations that majority of people may seem is impossible. You are able to do that because God is within you. You are God, and you are an extension of God, and so therefore you have His power to create. We have His power to create. That is a mind shift, and that's why I say we can never fail. The book continues on to say that the universe is like a GPS system, and everybody has used a GPS. You're traveling, you're traveling, you get off route, the GPS re-navigates you. And this book is going to refer to that here later in a moment. As an expression of the divine perfection, the universe is both self-organizing and self-correcting. To whatever extent your mind is aligned with love, you will receive divine compensation for any lack in your material existence. Let me read that one more time. As an expression of divine perfection, the universe is both self-organizing and self-correcting. To whatever extent your mind is aligned with love, so if you're aligned this much, the universe will compensate you materially accordingly to how big in love you are, or how much of love you come from. If you're this much, same thing. Infinite space, same thing. Excuse me. To whatever extent your mind is aligned with love, you will receive divine compensation for any lack in your material existence. From spiritual substance will come material manifestation. This is not a theory, it is a fact, and I second that fact because I've lived it. A law in which the universe operates. I call it the law of divine compensation. So the more of a loving person you are, the incentive is you will be compensated justly for being a loving being and spreading love in the world. And that your material existence, so everything that you live for, will be a place, or will be one of everything that you could ever imagine, everything that you could ever want. And the only stipulation, to a degree, right? The only stipulation is that you have to operate and you have to live your life from a place and from a space of love. How do you do that? Good question. Spiritual laws are not just beliefs. Either they are descriptions. Spiritual laws are not just beliefs either. They are descriptions of how consciousness operates. It is not our circumstance then, but rather our thoughts about our circumstances that determine our power to transform them. Be proactive, not reactive. So if you constantly are living your life in love, when things happen to you that you are not happy about, you are able to approach those things with love, and your reality or your manifestation will only come out to be something with love, which is interesting. You know why? I explained in season 1 that she's saying this. When you walk around with a filter of love, right, and things get thrown at you before it hits your consciousness or your non-consciousness, right? Before it comes through, it goes through this filter of love. Boom, then you get roses. So you're receiving roses even though the other person is throwing arrows at you. And that, I believe, is being proactive versus reactive, because yes, this person is throwing thorns and throwing, arrows at you, but really, in fact, you're not translating these messages this way, and you are responding with love. And that's one of the ways that you can begin preparing yourself rather than reacting to circumstances. So the law of divine compensation applies equally to all situations, but in this book we will focus on the application to money and the lack thereof. In a time of economic uncertainty, listen to this. This is really crucial and a really good perspective. In a time of economic uncertainty, when circumstances make it particularly particularly tempting to believe in the scarcity of the material plane over the abundance of the spiritual, our capacity to think differently is a miracle worker's edge. What that means is when everything around you is in complete chaos, at the end of the day, you are responsible for the reality and the outcome, period. So even though your reality may say, hey, I'm behind on my bills, even though your reality may say, and we're going to focus on money because the author is focusing on money. Even in reality, you say, man, selling houses right now is really hard because there's no inventory. Or there's too much inventory and it's the winter time and blah, 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 blah. I hear that all the time. All the time I hear it. Scarcity. Scarcity. Oh, I have this problem. I have that problem. I have this problem. I have that problem. Scarcity. When you can hold yourself in a place of total abundance, when all of this stuff is happening out here, everything and everyone, there's no way that the winter time is the best time, for a sales professional. There's no way. All that, whatever. Oh, I've been in the industry for 10 years. I hear that 15 years, 20 years. I hear that all the time. Like the experience and their perspective is still continuously going to shape and define how I'm going to look at the world. I'm sure everybody else has experienced this to some degree. There's no way raising a kid's going to be easy. There's no way. It's so hard. You lose your life. Your kid comes first. Blah, 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 blah. There's so much of it. And it's the smallest things. Oh, that's not your body type. This is your body type. Oh, you're not going to do this. You're going to do that. Scarcity. Throughout all those times when you feel like, if you can visualize yourself at all times, I have an abundance of peace. I have an abundance of financial freedom. Raising a kid is the easiest thing in the world. My wife comes first. Family is a sacred place. I create my own reality. I'm in charge and responsible for my actions. I have the ability and power to change mind. I have the ability and power to command the universe. I am able to wield the power and the energy of the universe to my favor and to my liking. Nobody's opinions is going to shape my vision or plan for myself anytime here in the future. Totally different space. You don't even allow for that stuff to come through. You don't even allow that stuff to come through to your mind like that. Like any of that stuff that you hear from other people who have their own journeys and they come from their own past and have taken this decision and made that decision and are not happy with the decision that they made, but haven't come to the understanding that they're truly in control of their future and everything that exists around them. They're giving you opinion on what you know to be true for yourself, that you can change and you can make these moves at any point in time, is wild. It doesn't even touch it. It's unfathomable. So the law of divine compensation says that when it comes to money, and that's so you take all these other things, right? But let's boil it down to just money. I'm not making enough money, right? I'm not, there are no jobs. I don't have a degree. So let's just focus on the slim, narrow road of just money. When you're experiencing these things and you stop and you write all these things down, this is why I'm not successful. I want you to write another piece of paper and write the complete opposite of all of those negative things that you may have written down and focus on those things. And I guarantee you I'm going to guarantee you that fact that you will find yourself in a different financial position. To what extent, I don't know, because everybody thinks differently. But that is the law of divine compensation. That is what the title of this book is. So that's the whole thing that this book is going to talk about and what we're going to dive into. Every now and again, I'll cross-reference a real life and like just life and character building into that whole. But we're going to focus on the money part because why not? If you identify only with your body and its reality, rather than with your spirit and its reality, then you're tempted to think that diminished material assets somehow diminish who you are. So if you find your identity in your physical self and in your physical reality, if it diminishes, you diminish, there might be some mind correction or some coaching that needs to be done. Or not. Live your reality, live your best life. But you are not merely a being of the material world. So I guess that's fake. That's not right. You are a being of unlimited spirit, and we all truly are. But not everybody comes to that. But I try to practice the art of non-judgment so that I'm not in a place where I'm judging or putting people down. Everybody's going to come to it at one point, or maybe they won't, and that's okay. And in spirit, there is no lack. You are not lacking just because your circumstances are. You are not lacking just because your circumstances are. You are not lacking just because your reality is. Okay? This book is fire. I love it. I love it. I love it. You are a loving idea in the mind of God. Circumstances should not and need not tempt you to believe otherwise. The universe showers you with love, not because of what you have done or not done, but because of who you are. Think of the universe itself as a personal love note from God to you. God is love. In sharing his love, you share his power. By aligning yourself with thoughts of infinite love for yourself and others, you gain dominion over the lower thought forms of the world. In a material sense, your situation might indeed be bleak. So it might, in fact, be very bad, right? Foreclosing on my house. My credit shot. I have all these credit cards. I have a ton of school debt. No, I don't, but I know. I've been on that journey. You yourself might have made a huge mistake. Still, what matters is what you think right now. Are you lingering in the past, or are you allowing your miracle to be in the present? Are you blaming yourself and others, or blessing yourself and others? Are you clinging to your faith in the reality of a disaster, or are you opening your mind to the possibility of a miracle? Realign your thoughts with the thoughts of God, and in any given instant, the universe is ready to begin again. Remember, the universe is like a GPS. Knocked off track, you can get back on track, and then it reroutes you to your destiny. And it's like a big game. It's just that fun because you get to a point where you're like, oh, I thought about that, and here it is. Fantastic. And the only thing I got to do is love people. You know, for me, it's like give them hugs, give them high fives, support them, not discourage them, be honest with them, be truthful. You know, that's not too bad. Mistakes and wrong turns need not to throw us off. And if they do throw you off, don't allow for it to be an extended amount of time. So if you're thrown off for, a couple hours or like a day, 2 days, just be careful not to linger in that space for too long, because if you do, what you focus on expands. Then it talks about the universe being a GPS. The law of divine compensation give us insurance that the universe will simply create a new route. But how is that possible, David? Because the universe is infinite. Because the universe is infinite, you cannot figure out how that's possible, because our mental capacity cannot, it can't. It just pause. Even that's a really interesting statement, because I would love to see somebody shatter that reality, right? But right now, I'll hold to that position that the universe is infinite. So we can't mentally fathom all of the different ideas of what could happen, how we could be rerouted. But the moment that you say it can't happen, is the moment that you block every miracle that potentially could come to you. And that's why you just have to keep an open mind. The law of divine compensation gives us insurance gives us insurance, I would say, and assurance that the universe will simply create a new route. What is lacking shall become abundant, and what is wounded should be healed. From out of the blue, or miracle mindlessness, miracles will flow forth naturally. That's a really powerful. I like that one. Don't dwell in the past. And again, you can never fail because the universe got you. The universe has us. And when it comes to divine compensation, so being compensated just for being a divine loving being, you will never fail. Compensation, money will never be a problem for you ever again. And I'm casting that out right now. So if you're watching, or if you do watch, I'm casting that out of you right now. And I want you to own that as your new identity. Money has no power over you, and you are abundantly wealthy. Period. Keep that perspective, and the out of the blue, oh my gosh, that's a miracle. Oh, I couldn't even believe that would have happened. I couldn't imagine this in my, all that stuff. Trust me, it's pretty interesting stuff. Because perfection is your eternal home, to which the universe is programmed to return you whenever you are have deviated for whatever reason from the thoughts that get and keep you there. So why does this happen? What have we done as people to deserve this, right? Well, what we've done is we are extensions of God. He has created us. And so because we are the sons and daughters of him, we are perfect. We are perfect in the way that we show up. If we deviate off the path of perfection for whatever reason, the GPS, the universe GPS is always going to try to get us back on track. But ultimately, it's our responsibility to identify that we've been off track. First, identify who we are as people. Tap into our greatest and highest person, highest awareness, and our highest greatness, right? The journey to greatness. And once we do that, and you identify when you get off track, which occasionally you might, then you know that, oh, well, that's not my reality. That is not who I am. I need to get back on track. And then the universe will automatically auto-direct you back. So you'll see it, boom, oh, that's not me. But that was a mistake. Oh, I didn't like that. I shouldn't have done that. But it reroutes you back, and then that's when you don't dwell on the past and you continue moving forward because you know who you are and you know where you come from. Now you can change that. But the most important thing here, I believe, is to not abuse your power. He's given us this power, but we should use it for love and good. But obviously, not everybody does that. And why? Like, why do we deserve this? Because that's how much we're loved. God has given us the entire universe, all the energy in the world to create a life of financial abundance. When that sits and resonates with your heart and your soul and your body, like, you will forever be rich. The power of faith. This is the second chapter, and we're going to conclude. So faith is not just a theological principle. It is a mental and emotional muscle. And that's true. Because when your reality is telling you that you should be thinking this or you should be feeling this, that's when the mental part comes in. The emotional part says, well, how could this be? You have to align with the emotion that all is well when everything is chaos, right? And that takes I'm not going to say it takes time, because in 1 second you could get it. In 1 minute you could be on that different place. You can be in that different place. So I'm not going to say it takes time, but it is something that you work on for your entire life because you get better and better at it, right? So it's good to start in one place first, because you got to calm your mind. How do you calm your mind? You meditate is one way. You journal. You get all the ideas out of your head so there's not so much noise. And you calm your mind. You bring your mind down. You say, okay, identify, and I see that my reality is doing this. But the beautiful thing is I have 24 hours in a day, so it can all change in 24 hours, right? And then you break that down to seconds. How many seconds are in a day? You got that much time for things to change. And so long as you believe, right, every single day I wake up, I hold perspectives. If today that perspective wasn't met, and what I mean by that, if the perspective, like if I say today this is going to happen and it doesn't happen, guess what? The next day I wake up and I say this is going to happen, and I believe it to be true every single day until it happens, and it happens every single time. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So, really quick story about this Williamson, Marianne Williamson. So, what I needed more than anything right then was faith. Faith that I could go forward and ultimately recoup my losses is the end of her story that she talks about. So, the author, threw a really big show, okay, at a huge theater in LA. And in LA, she threw this show. She said, hey, I just want you guys to trust me. Come by, and I will blow your socks off, right? And that's how she marketed it. She didn't really put in an agenda. She's like, just trust me. And so she had the play. There was music. There was talents. It was phenomenal. Her family came in from Houston. It was amazing. But guess what? She didn't sell out the theater, and she inevitably lost $10,000. So at the end of the show, Pop's, Dad comes to the backstage, and Marianne Williamson, the author of the book that we're reading, Divine Compensation, she's crying. Oh, this whole show was a big bomb, and her dad hugs her closely and says, "Hey, I'm very proud of you. I'm happy that you did this, and I'm happy that you actually had $10,000 to risk. You had $10,000 to risk and to lose in the event that the event didn't happen the way that you wished it to be. But it was a wonderful event. You did a great job. And if anybody asks you, say that you were able, silver lining, say that you were able to muscle that loss." And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I can actually apply that to one of the scenarios in my life right now, for something I recently did, and that'll come out later down the road. But then, for weeks and weeks and thereafter, she could do one of two things. She can dwell and complain about how she just lost $10,000, or she can just brush her shoulder off and say, hey, $10,000, that's nothing. Period. That's nothing. $10,000 in my reality, what? I could buy this. I could pay for rent. I could do this. I could pay for mortgage, blah, 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 right? All these different things that your reality and your senses will tell you. 10,000, that's nothing. No, you need the money. Da-da-da. You just lost it. What were you doing? You took silver linings. What her dad said was really important, that you were able to muster and shoulder a loss of $10,000 or risk $10,000. That's the perspective to hold. I am abundantly wealthy. $10,000 was an investment in this lesson. And now 10, 20, 40, 80, 90, $100 million, whatever your reality is, now starts to come into effect. You start to adopt this mindset where it's like, oh, 10,000, that's a lot of money. But in the sense of a lot of money, like all is lost. No, that's not my perspective. But she had a bunch of friends around here. And this is my wrap-up point. She had a bunch of friends around her who kept saying, oh my gosh, $10,000 is a lot of money. Well, the problem is those friends who continue to say that in their limited perspective, from their limited perspective, is now potentially disrupting your mental frequency and your ability to imagine a situation or a life for yourself today where 10,000 is not a lot of money. And they may not be able to see that. They may not be able to do that. So they continue to repeat this because to them, $10,000 is a lot of money. They can't shoulder $10,000. So they put you in this box based off of their perception of life and finance. Really important not to be around those people too much. If they make you feel emotionally that $10,000 is a lot of money, or that you will never amount to anything, or you will never build anything that will allow you to generate that kind of revenue on a secondly basis. Okay? That's being mindful of who's around you. So throughout all of this power, recognizing the forces that can pull you back into a limited mindset is really, really important. So I'll conclude there. And I didn't read yesterday, but out of our book, Your Best You Ever, was today the 1st. Happy December, everybody. All right, here we go. This is going to be a very fun thing to do because whatever we talk about in that book, I can almost guarantee you the best you ever is going to align to a very strong degree on one way or another. So December 1st, the best you ever, for everybody who's joining us for the first time, they have one page in this book for every single day of the week or every single day. And today's December 1st, for example, so they have December 1st passage. There's like a section in here designated just for that. So December 1st is mankind's treasure hunt. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Interesting. All of mankind is engaged in a colossal worldwide treasure hunt. Some people seek treasure from earthly sources, treasures such as material wealth or public acclaim. Others seek God's treasures by making him the cornerstone of their lives. What kind of treasure hunter are you? Are you so caught up in the demands of everyday living that you sometimes allow the search for worldly treasures to become your primary focus? If so, it's time to think long and hard about what you value and why. All the items on your daily to-do list are not created equal. That's why you must put things first by placing God in his rightful place, first place. The world's treasures are difficult to find and difficult to keep. God's treasures are ever present and everlasting. Which treasures, then, will you claim as your own? There is absolutely no evidence that complexity and materialism lead to happiness. On the contrary, there is plenty of evidence that simplicity and spirituality lead to joy and blessedness that is better than happiness. Building a Better You, and that passage was written by Dennis Swanberg. Building a Better You. Today, think long and hard about the priorities and values that guide your decision making. And then when you finally put all that material stuff in perspective, begin storing up riches that will endure throughout eternity, the spiritual kind. So the beautiful thing about all of this, in my opinion, is that the divine compensation book, right? The law of divine compensation book says that we live a life of love and care at all times and in every circumstance. We will materially be compensated for it because we're spreading love. But the thing is this is between the lines type of stuff. The way that you do that is by knowing who you are. So you spend time and digging up all that junk that's within you, shining a light on it, discarding it to the side, becoming one with it, being at peace with it. And when you do that, you are able to send that love vibration to everyone that is around you and everyone who is not around you. And when you operate and stem from that, people may take you for granted. People may abuse your kindness for weakness. People may think that you are naive, but only you know it's the work that you have chosen to do. It's the work that you have the love that you have chosen, the life of love that you have chosen for yourself is the reason why you are the way that you are. On top of that, you're tapping into the inner God that is in you because God is infinite love. How do you forgive people who one day honor your name and love you unconditionally, and then the next day, because you did something, they throw rocks at you and call and yell blasphemy and put you on a cross and put nails through your hands? How do you forgive people that do that to you? But that's the thing. We have to be made in that image and we have to operate in that way. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do all the time, but that's why we have to sometimes block the messages. We have to block people out. We can't get their opinions. We can't take media. We just have to be with ourselves. And when you do that, you start connecting with the spirit. And when you connect with the spirit, then you start to live a life of long abundance. And then everything becomes everything beyond the physical self, the physical pleasures, the touch, the feel, the smell, the taste, everything that we experience. It becomes more than that. And when you start living in that space, then you're able to manifest a world of total abundance. And when you manifest the world of total abundance, your material life is not defining you any longer, because now you are living for the spirit and not for the body. So you're not limited to any capacity. So if something goes awry, you can change that with your mind. And it's that simple. Whew, long session today, but very much worth it. And thank you so much to everybody who joined me today. Day 31 of 365 with David McDonald, the GOAT. Happy Saturday, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 5 a.m. Peace and love.